Approving the state budget, overhauling the public pension system, and giving some state workers a pay raise were among the issues lawmakers tackled as they raced toward adjournment. In a week marked by only the second override of a veto by Governor Mary Fallin, the session was notable for what was left undone as much as by what was accomplished.
Sergeants announce roll call in the hall. Roll call is in progress.
Lawmakers worked late into the evening several nights as they raced to approve legislation and adjourn before the start of the Memorial Day holiday. The biggest item on the agenda was adoption of a budget for fiscal year 2015. The Senate approved the $7.1 billion budget with no debate, although several Democratic senators questioned Appropriations and Budget Chair Clark Jolly about some provisions of the bill. They raised concerns about a reduction in funding for the Oklahoma Health Care Authority. Jolly pointed out that agency will receive a supplemental appropriation in the current fiscal year, which will offset next year's cut.
The Health Care Authority does have a loss of FMAP funding in $60 million, another $20 to $60 million in loss of revenue from growth and utilization. But we are not cutting the Health Care Authority. They will stay flat because of the supplemental that we are doing to allow them to cash flow this year.
The General Appropriations Bill also includes an $80 million increase for common education. Jolly said budget negotiators would have liked more dollars going to education, but insisted a revenue shortfall prevented them from doing more.
And I think we should focus our attention on what we're doing here, and that's providing $105 million of money for education, $80 million of it permanent. I think that's a significant investment, especially when most agencies of the state are taking a 5.5% cut in spending. I think doing that for education is a very positive step in the right direction.
Education was also on the mind of Governor Mary Fallin, who vetoed a bill making it easier for third graders to advance to the fourth grade, even if they score poorly on the third grade reading test. House Bill 2625 modifies the Reading Sufficiency Act to allow promotion upon the recommendation of a team composed of parents, teachers, administrators, and a reading specialist. Fallin claimed the measure was a return to the practice of social promotions and a disservice to students who fail to demonstrate basic reading skills.
If we promote a third grader to the fourth grade because he is or she is 10 years old and not because they're reading proficient or they can read, we're setting that child up for failure. Lawmakers
moved quickly to override the veto, with the House gallery erupting in applause as the vote was announced.
Declare the vote.
79 aye, 17 nay.
Having received 3/4 vote, majority of those elected to and constituting the House, I declare the House Bill 2625 to have passed, notwithstanding the objections of the governor. Members, the House will come to order. Members, the House will come to order.
The Senate followed suit a few minutes later, voting 45-2 for the override. It was only the second time that Fallin has had a veto overturned, both this year. After the House vote, Sand Springs School Superintendent Lloyd Snow praised lawmakers for the override. Snow argues the Reading Sufficiency Act is unfair to special needs students who are on individualized education plans.
Some of those kids have made dramatic increases. Some of those kids have friends that they're going to school with, that their teachers are delighted with progress. And for them to be facing a retention based on very narrow good cause reasons was just unacceptable.
Lawmakers also voted to overhaul the Oklahoma Public Employees Retirement System. House author Randy McDaniel pointed out the state's 7 public pension systems have a combined unfunded liability of more than $11 billion.
We spent $823 million last year to service those debts. We spent a like amount to pay for the new benefits. The costs are increasing, and the costs are crowding out other priorities.
House Minority Leader Scott Inman objected to changing the state's biggest retirement system that is most financially solvent.
Unsustainability, it is already sustainable. It's on the path to 100% funded. It's already over 80% funded, which is considered sustainable by the folks on Wall Street. What are we talking about?
State Representative James Lockhart claimed switching from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan would put future retirees and the pension plans themselves at risk.
If the stock market crashes, what happens to these thousands of state employees that are on a defined contribution retirement? I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to line up down at the DHS office in Poto. They're going to line up for welfare.
Several Democrats also expressed concerns a separate bill to increase salaries for some state employees was contingent upon approval of the pension overhaul, which McDaniel confirmed.
Some members wanted to ensure pay raises in the budget before supporting this bill. If we pass this bill, pay raises stay in the budget.
The House voted 58-33 for the measure, sending it on to the Senate. State Senator Roger Ballinger opposed the switch and repeated his concerns about the effect on retirees to Senate author Rick Brinkley.
There's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of reports that show negative outcomes from the states that have tried this. You can get reports that say anything you want, Senator, as you well know. The reports I see that I want to believe in do not make it encouraging for the bottom third of retirees to stay out of poverty under a defined contribution plan.
I think a lot of the reports that you have seen that talk about other states fail to talk about the fact that what this plan does that's different than the other plans is continue to put money into the old system to keep it going.
The Senate approved the bill 35-11 and sent it to the governor. The Senate also passed a $37.5 million appropriations bill providing pay increases ranging from 6% to almost 13% for targeted state employees, most of whom have not had a pay raise for 8 years. Oklahoma Public Employees Association Executive Director Sterling Zerley called the raise a good first step and appeared unconcerned about the pay plan being contingent on changes to the pension system.
Well, I mean, it was tied together. We knew that because our big issue was, we need to compensate employees where they need to be compensated based on the market. And you'll see a subsequent bill, 1794, that's coming up, saying, okay, before you can look at realigning any of the benefits or readjusting benefits as a pay plan says, you'll have to appropriate another $60 million towards employee pay.
The raises will go to employees in 25 agencies, including workers in public safety, health care, social services, and corrections. Oklahoma Corrections Professionals Executive Director Sean Wallace said the increase for corrections workers is deserved, but questions how much it will ease critical staffing shortages.
But, it comes out to less than $1 per hour for corrections officers, and I don't see it making that big of a difference to attract and retain people to work for the agency.
The House adopted a plan backed by Governor Fallin to help school districts pay for storm shelters and safe rooms after initially rejecting it. By a vote of 51-39, House members approved the bill, calling for a statewide vote of the people to give school districts a one-time increase in their bonding capacity to pay for shelters. A plan to fund the long-stalled American Indian Cultural Center and Museum is dead. That proposal never came up for a vote in the House.
I think that's a discussion we need to have once a final determination of what we are going to do with that investment that has been made over the last 20 years. That's something we need to decide where we go from here. We do not have a decision made yet as to whether we're bulldozing it or completing it, or if we're just going to kick the can down the road for another 20 years.
House author David Dank isn't ready to give up hope.
If it's important enough to call a special session, and I think it is, obviously, if it's important enough to call one, it should be called. This thing is huge. The legislature is irresponsible by not ultimately addressing it.